Have you ever felt that something is stirring inside you, even if words fail to describe it? Not the chaos of the outside world, not the daily changes of society, but something far quieter, far deeper, a vibration beginning to rise from the depths of your being. It is not loud, not obvious, but subtle. Like a single note resonating through an empty chamber, it lingers and grows. You sense that you no longer fit into the old mold of who you once were. Yet the new version of yourself has not fully arrived either. You stand in between, in a liminal space, a threshold between the past and the not yet. Anthropologists call this state liminality, the in-between experienced during ancient rites of passage. In tribal initiations, the young were often separated from their communities, stripped of names, clothes, and identities. They wandered in darkness, neither children nor yet adults. That space of suspension was never meaningless. It was where transformation occurred. What you feel within yourself is much the same, the end of one identity and the patient shaping of another. Outwardly, life may seem unchanged. The same streets, the same routines, the same faces greet you every day. But inwardly, subtle signals keep surfacing. A sudden wave of emotion without a clear trigger. A moment of stillness that feels unusually charged. An impulse that rises, asking you to turn left when logic says right. It is as though something greater, call it the universe, destiny, or divine order, is quietly reorganizing your path. Not through chaos, but through a rhythm you cannot yet decipher. And this process is not about hunger for more success, more possessions, more validation. It is not about craving or the desperate chase for what lies outside of you. It is about becoming, about preparing the vessel within so that it can hold what is approaching. What is on its way is not small. It is immense. And to hold something immense, one must first be reshaped. Without knowing it, you are becoming that space. The clay is softening, the vessel is widening. This is why you feel the first signal, a quiet distance emerging between you and certain people, habits, or places that once felt like home. The friendship that once lit up your days now feels muted. The conversations that once thrilled you now feel hollow, but it is not rejection. It is not anger. There is no conflict, no bitterness. Something within you has simply stepped away, silently, peacefully, as though your soul has begun walking ahead and whispering, "This is no longer yours." History has always told us that great transformations begin with withdrawal. Siddhartha, before he became the Buddha, left the palace in silence, walking away from luxury not in rebellion, but in recognition that his soul no longer belonged there. St. Francis of Assisi cast aside his silks and coins, not in anger at his father's wealth, but because his spirit had outgrown it. The detachment you feel is cut from the same cloth. It is not loss. It is release. You cannot force yourself to stay where your spirit has already departed. You cannot pretend to belong in places that have grown too small for you. Even if your mind clings to explanations, your heart knows the truth. This is not abandonment. It is freedom. The universe does not build new beginnings upon old, cracked foundations. It clears the ground first. And so what feels like emptiness is actually preparation. This detachment is not impulsive rebellion. It is not a dramatic storming out, nor the slamming of doors. It is more like the closing of a book after the final page. Quiet, organic, inevitable. What once filled you has now become too heavy to carry. What once held you is now holding you back. And instead of resisting, you let go, not through logic, but through a deep inner knowing. The philosopher Heraclitus once said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man." Your soul understands this. That is why you feel what you feel. Even if your mind cannot yet rationalize it, your heart accepts it with quiet grace. You are no longer who you were, and you cannot return to that version of yourself. This sense of detachment may feel unsettling, even uncomfortable. But remember, it is not emptiness. It is space-making. Like the pruning of a tree that looks cruel but allows for greater fruit in the next season. Like winter stripping the forest bare, not to kill it, but to prepare it for spring. You are being gently stripped of what cannot walk with you into the future, not because those things were wrong, but because their role in your story is complete. You find yourself no longer explaining, no longer justifying, no longer begging to belong. And though it feels strange, it is the beginning of something profound. Because the moment you stop forcing yourself to stay where your soul no longer thrives, you signal to the universe without words that you are ready. Ready for what comes next, even if you cannot yet name it. And here lies the quiet miracle. What you release does not leave you broken, but strangely lighter. What departs does not take away your essence, but returns you to it. You are not losing. You are arriving at the truest version of yourself. The silent shift within you is not an ending. It is the opening note of a new symphony. And though the melody has only just begun, your soul already recognizes the rhythm. The second sign of transformation often arrives quietly. You begin to feel yourself releasing, sometimes without even realizing it. People, habits, and patterns that once felt inseparable from your life start slipping away. But unlike before, you don't fight it. There is no need to cling, no urge to explain, no dramatic farewell. Something inside you knows the chapter has ended. At first, this release can feel unsettling. You wonder why the relationships that once defined you now feel weightless, why ambitions that once consumed you now seem hollow. But it is not rejection nor betrayal. It is not anger nor bitterness. It is simply the soul's migration, a silent retreat into truth. The distance that grows between you and the past is not a wound. It is a signal. History remembers such moments of release, not as endings, but as thresholds. Siddhartha leaving his palace at night, stepping into the unknown. Moses turning his back on Egypt to wander into the desert. Even modern visionaries like Nelson Mandela, who walked away from 27 years in confinement, not with vengeance, but with a heart stripped of hatred. These moments of detachment were not acts of destruction. They were acts of becoming. Each one required surrender of an old life to make space for the emergence of something new. In your own life, this release may not look heroic. It may look like declining an invitation, stepping out of a conversation, deleting an old number, or no longer forcing yourself to participate in circles where your soul feels suffocated. And yet each of these acts, small as they seem, carries profound weight. They are signals to the universe. I will no longer carry what diminishes me. This is not about rebellion. It is not about burning bridges. It is about allowing what has already completed its role in your story to fall away naturally. The Japanese have a word, mono no aware, which speaks to the gentle sadness and quiet beauty of impermanence. To release with grace is not to deny the value of what was, but to acknowledge it has served its time. What once filled you cannot be forced to keep filling you. In the desert traditions of the Middle East, prophets spoke of release as purification. One could not receive revelation if the vessel was already overflowing with noise, clutter, or attachment. Similarly, your spirit now recognizes that in order to step into a greater alignment, it must first create room. The release you feel may appear to others as coldness, indifference, or retreat. But it is none of those things. It is clarity. The clarity that comes when you realize you cannot carry every chapter forward. You are not abandoning your past. You are honoring it by letting it rest, and with every release, something changes inside you. You become lighter, clearer, more aligned. Your decisions begin to flow with less resistance. You no longer feel guilt for saying no. You no longer linger where your presence shrinks. This is not ego. It is inner wisdom. Consider the image of a tree. Every autumn, leaves fall, branches stand bare, and yet no one mourns the tree. We know spring will return, fuller and stronger than before. In the same way, your soul is shedding what no longer nourishes it, not because it was wrong, but because it has already fulfilled its season. You may not fully understand why this release is happening now, but your heart already trusts it. For the universe does not strip you to punish. It strips you to prepare. To make space for the immense, the unseen, the not yet. So when old friends drift away, when familiar doors close without reason, when dreams you once chased lose their flavor, resist the urge to fight. Recognize instead, this is not loss. This is release. You are not being left behind. You are being moved forward. There comes a moment when life itself seems to slow down. The projects that once surged forward suddenly halt. Plans unravel. Paths blur into fog. What once felt certain now stands still, suspended as if frozen in midair. At first, you panic. You feel betrayed by time, abandoned by momentum. You wonder if you made a mistake, if perhaps you've fallen off course. But with each passing day in this unexpected stillness, something begins to shift within you. You realize this pause is not a failure. It is sacred. The ancients understood this better than we do. Farmers once lived by the rhythm of the seasons, and they knew the earth must rest after harvest. They did not curse the winter, they honored it. For within the stillness of frozen fields, beneath layers of snow, life reorganized itself in secret. Seeds waited, roots deepened. In the darkness, unseen, the future was being prepared. So too with your life. What you perceive as stagnation is not punishment. It is recalibration. The universe has pressed its hand upon your shoulder, asking you not to run, but to rest, asking you not to force, but to trust. In the hush of this pause, a deeper kind of growth begins, growth that cannot be achieved in noise or motion. It is in stillness that the pieces of your soul rearrange themselves, aligning with a future you cannot yet imagine. The desert mystics of old knew this well. They retreated into silence, not because they had answers, but because they needed the silence to hear them. In the stillness of their exile, wisdom surfaced like water from hidden springs. You may feel the same confusion they once did. At first, the pause feels unbearable. You measure yourself against others who seem to be racing ahead, and you ask why you are standing still. Yet slowly, you begin to see with new eyes. You notice the details that rush once blurred, the softness of a morning light, the weight of your own breath, the subtle shifts in your own inner world. You hear your own voice again, stripped of the world's demands. Philosophers from Marcus Aurelius to Lao Tzu wrote of this kind of stillness. Aurelius spoke of the inner citadel, the quiet fortress where the soul withdraws to find strength. Lao Tzu said, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." These truths remind us that the pause is not wasted time. It is preparation. Consider the seed. Before it becomes a tree, it spends weeks, months, even years, hidden underground. Nothing visible happens. To the eye, it is as though nothing exists. But in truth, the seed is splitting, pushing roots into the darkness, preparing to break through the soil. The pause of your life is no different. The roots are forming now, and something else happens in this silence. You begin to shed urgency. You stop moving from fear of standing still. You stop filling your days with distractions to escape your own presence. Instead, you learn to sit with yourself, to breathe without rushing, to live without proving. That is the quiet alchemy of the pause. It strips away desperation and reveals depth. In modern culture, silence is often mistaken for emptiness, stillness for waste. But sacred traditions across the world tell a different story. The Sabbath in Judaism, The practice of Vipassana in Buddhism, the contemplative prayers of Christian monks, all honor the pause as holy. For it is in rest that the spirit heals and hears. So when your life slows, when doors refuse to open, when progress feels stalled, resist the urge to panic. Recognize instead that you are being preserved, protected. The timing of your life is being tuned, and in this pause, you will come to discover something profound. You are not waiting for life to begin. Life is waiting for you to arrive. There is a paradox that many resist until they live it themselves. The strongest transformations rarely happen in movement. They happen in stillness. For in the quiet, in the slowing down, the soul learns to stand firm. At first, stillness feels unnatural. We have been raised to believe that progress is always visible, that motion equals meaning, that achievement must be measured by outward results. To sit in silence feels like defeat, like falling behind. But if you lean into it, if you stop running from the quiet, you discover that stillness is not emptiness at all. It is power. History has shown this again and again. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor surrounded by wars and betrayals, turned not to noise, but to his journal, writing quietly to himself. Nowhere you can go is more peaceful than your own soul. Lao Tzu, retreating into the mountains of ancient China, wrote, "The master does nothing, yet nothing is left undone." And in the deserts of Judea, early Christian hermits withdrew from the bustle of cities, choosing silence as their teacher. They discovered that stillness was not an escape from life. It was the furnace that shaped their strength. Think of water. When stirred, it clouds. When still, it clears. In stillness, you begin to see more sharply the motives behind your choices, the weight of your attachments, the subtle callings of your spirit. The noise that once drowned out your intuition falls away, and what remains is clarity. This is why the pause, the silence, the suspension of forward motion is not punishment. It is refinement. In the stillness, the universe is not weakening you. It is deepening you. You are learning to draw power not from frenzy, but from presence, not from speed, but from steadiness. There are days when this feels unbearable. You sit in the quiet and hear nothing but your doubts. Yet, even then, something invisible is at work. Just as a forest regenerates in silence after a fire, just as muscles rebuild in rest after strain, so too your soul is regenerating in its stillness. In Japan, there is a word, ma, which describes the space between notes in music, the silence that gives sound its meaning. Without the pause, melody becomes noise. Without stillness, life becomes chaos. The strength you are learning now comes not from doing more, but from allowing the rhythm of your life to breathe. And then one day, without warning, you notice the shift. You no longer feel the same urgency to prove yourself. You no longer chase answers with desperation. You no longer measure your worth by how much you produce. Instead, you walk with intention. You breathe with fullness. You act not from fear of lack, but from alignment with truth. This is the gift of stillness. It transforms your perception of power. You begin to see that strength is not the loudest voice, but the quietest certainty. It is not the constant striving, but the unshakable presence. And the world feels this change. Others may not be able to explain it, but they sense it. The calm in your gaze, the steadiness in your decisions, the depth in your silence. You have become the kind of person who does not need to shout to be heard, who does not need to rush to arrive. For you have discovered what sages and mystics have always known. Stillness is not weakness. Stillness is strength. When stillness takes root, something unexpected begins to awaken inside you. You notice things you once overlooked. The energy of a room before anyone speaks. The hidden tremor in a friend's voice, though their words sound cheerful. The way your own body contracts in places that no longer resonate, or expands when truth is present. What once slipped past your awareness now strikes with clarity. At first, you may mistake this for fragility. Why do you feel so much? Why does everything seem to echo louder than before? Yet what you are experiencing is not weakness. It is sensitivity being sharpened into perception. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, spoke of the collective unconscious, a deep layer of human experience where archetypes and hidden truths reside. To tap into it requires sensitivity, an openness to signals that cannot be measured but can be felt. Indigenous traditions around the world understood this long before psychology gave it words. Shamans, oracles, seers. They were chosen not because they were stronger, but because they were more porous, more receptive to the invisible threads connecting all things. Your soul is undergoing the same training. This heightened awareness is not random. It is preparation. For the greatness you are being shaped to hold is not something you can manage by logic alone. It requires attunement, an ability to sense beyond words and appearances. You may find that conversations feel different. Some drain you instantly, while others leave you lighter, expanded, as if nourished by unseen hands. Places you once enjoyed now feel suffocating. Commitments that looked perfect on paper no longer sit right in your body. Before your mind can rationalize, your spirit already knows. At first, this clarity isolates you. You wonder if something is wrong, if you've grown too sensitive, too strange, too distant. But in truth, you are learning a new language, the language of energy, of intuition, of inner truth. You are beginning to read reality on a deeper layer. The Stoics said the wise man can see beneath appearances, and the mystics said the soul hears what the ear cannot. Both were pointing to the same truth. Sensitivity is intelligence of a higher kind. It is a compass guiding you away from the artificial, the superficial, and the fearful, and drawing you toward what is real, grounded, and alive. And yes, it comes with a cost. You no longer tolerate half-truths. You cannot remain in connections that feed your ego but starve your spirit. You no longer silence your instincts to keep the peace. Your soul has become too precise to endure what does not match its frequency. But this is not loss. It is refinement. The heightened perception is shaping you into someone who cannot be deceived by appearances, who no longer confuses noise for music. In Japanese sword-making, the blade is hammered again and again, not to weaken it, but to make it sharper, purer, indestructible. Your sensitivity is that sharpening. And as this happens, a strange kind of calm arrives. Where once you doubted your instincts, now you trust them. Where once you needed explanations, now you allow your body and soul to speak. A true yes expands you. A true no contracts you. And you trust that wisdom, even if others cannot see it. This sensitivity, though heavy at first, is not meant to break you. It is meant to prepare you. Only those who feel deeply can hold something truly meaningful. Only those who hear the subtle can respond to the sacred. What? You are becoming such a vessel, tuned, attuned, aligned. What once felt like fragility has revealed itself as strength. With heightened sensitivity comes a new kind of responsibility. You can no longer live as if everything belongs in your space, as if every voice deserves your attention, as if every presence should remain in your life. What once seemed harmless now feels unbearable. What you once tolerated now feels like poison. It is not because you have become colder, it is because you have become clearer. The world may call it detachment, but in truth it is preservation. You are no longer willing to allow your energy to be scattered, diluted, or wasted. You have begun to understand what mystics, warriors, and sages across history all understood. Your energy is sacred, and not everything deserves access to it. Consider the ancient samurai. Their code, Bushido, was not only about skill in battle, but about clarity of spirit. They trained not to waste a single movement, not to swing a blade without purpose. In the same way, you are learning not to waste your inner strength on what does not align with who you are becoming. Each no you speak without guilt is a sword stroke of precision. Each boundary you set is armor, forged from wisdom, not fear. Even the spiritual traditions echo this truth. The Desert Fathers and Mothers of early Christianity withdrew into wilderness not to hate the world, but to protect their inner flame. In Buddhism, monks carefully guard their environment to maintain balance of mind. Indigenous healers shield themselves from energies that could cloud their vision. All knew the same law you are learning now. What enters your space shapes you, and so your space must be treated as sacred ground. This protection does not require anger or dramatic withdrawal. It does not demand endless explanations. You no longer owe the world a justification for your boundaries. You feel what resonates and what does not, and that is enough. The moment something contracts your spirit, you know it cannot stay. And with each choice, your life shifts. You walk away from conversations that no longer nourish. You decline offers that once tempted you, but now feel empty. You stop trying to prove your worth to people who cannot see it. Your silence becomes more powerful than your defense. Others may not understand. Some will call it arrogance. Some will call it loss. But you know the truth. You are not rejecting them. You are respecting yourself. You are not abandoning them. You are aligning with the greater rhythm calling you forward. This clarity may leave you standing alone at times, but solitude in alignment is richer than company in distortion. The silence that once scared you now protects you. The solitude that once felt like emptiness now feels like sanctuary. For when you guard your energy, when you treat your presence as sacred, you send a message without words. I am ready for what is true. I am no longer available for what shrinks me. And the universe responds. It is not rejection. It is refinement. It is not ego. It is alignment. This is how you protect the sacred frequency of your becoming, not by shutting out the world in bitterness, but by opening only to what resonates with your deepest truth. And in that protection, you are not closing doors. You are opening space. Space for the great to arrive. There comes a moment, subtle yet unmistakable, when all the fragments of your story begin to weave together. The heartbreaks that once felt senseless, the silences that once filled you with rage, the detours that left you lost, all of them start to align like scattered stars forming a constellation. It is not your mind that discovers this pattern. It is your heart. A quiet understanding rises from within, and you realize nothing was wasted, nothing was random. Even the moments that broke you were part of a hidden design. This realization is not dramatic. It is not a sudden explosion of light. It arrives as a whisper, as if your soul is finally speaking in a language you can understand. You revisit the pain of your past, and instead of resentment, you feel gratitude. The relationship that shattered you gave you the clarity to choose differently. The opportunity that collapsed taught you to stand on your own ground. The pause that once enraged you became the sanctuary where your true self began to emerge. History is full of such transformations. Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the Holocaust, wrote that even in the most brutal suffering, meaning could be found. His insight was not naive. It was born from fire. He saw that those who discovered purpose in their pain could endure what others could not. In a different era, Nelson Mandela, after decades in prison, emerged not hardened by hate, but softened into wisdom, turning captivity into preparation for leadership. These stories echo the same truth you now begin to feel. The past, no matter how brutal, was never wasted. Your scars, once heavy, now appear as maps. They are proof not of your weakness, but of your survival. They remind you not of what broke you, but of how you rebuilt. Each scar is a chapter, and together they tell a story of becoming. And so you begin to walk differently. no longer burdened by regret, no longer haunted by what if. You stop wishing to rewrite your past. You stop measuring yourself against the illusions of perfection. Instead, you honor your story as sacred ground. Every silence, every ending, every loss was a teacher. They did not punish you. They prepared you. This is integration, the moment when you stop carrying your past as weight and begin carrying it as wisdom. When you no longer resist the shape your life has taken, but embrace it as necessary. In this state, even your inner voice changes. You speak to yourself with gentleness instead of accusation. You stop sprinting to prove your worth. You walk with presence, knowing you are already enough. And this shift, subtle as it is revolutionary. For it means you are no longer living from emptiness. You are living from fullness. The mystics called this alchemical gold, when suffering is transmuted into wisdom, when wounds become openings for light. And this is what your soul is now doing. The past is no longer your burden. It has become your foundation. There comes a day when nothing on the outside seems to have changed. Your job is the same. Your daily routines are the same. Even the people around you are the same. Yet deep within, you know something has shifted. You wake up with a new rhythm pulsing quietly in your chest. You are standing in a frequency you have never carried before. You are not trying harder. You are not forcing anything. And yet life begins to feel different. The heaviness that once weighed you down is lighter. The doubts that once consumed your mind no longer hold the same power. You breathe more fully, walk more steadily, and think with a clarity that surprises even you. It is not because circumstances have transformed, it is because you have. Spiritual traditions across cultures speak of this state. In Eastern thought, it is called chi, the life energy that, when aligned, flows freely through the body and spirit. In Hindu philosophy, it is prana, the breath of life. In mystical Christianity, it was described as grace, the invisible current that lifts a soul beyond its own strength. However named, the truth remains. When your vibration shifts, your life cannot remain the same. You begin to notice this in subtle ways. The conversations you attract are different. Strangers seem drawn to you without knowing why. Synchronicities appear, someone mentions the very book you were meant to read, or an opportunity arrives just as you quietly prepared for it. The coincidences are too precise to dismiss. But this new frequency is not about magic tricks or instant results. It is about resonance. Like a tuning fork struck in silence, you have begun to hum with a new note, and everything around you is adjusting to match it. Some people will drift away because they no longer resonate. Others will be magnetized to you because your presence awakens something dormant within them. And you accept both with peace, for you now know it is not rejection, it is alignment. You also notice this shift in the smallest choices. You no longer tolerate what drains you. You stop giving away your time out of obligation. You choose food, words, relationships, and spaces that nourish you, not because you are forcing discipline, but because your spirit no longer desires anything less. This is the proof that your vibration has changed. Your life begins to orbit naturally around what is true. Think of music. A single string tuned higher changes the entire sound of the instrument. So it is with your soul. You have been retuned, and the song of your life now plays in a new key. Others may not understand why, but they feel it. Some feel unsettled in your presence, as though reminded of truths they would rather avoid. Others feel at ease, as though finally home. This is not arrogance. This is not superiority. This is transformation. You are no longer living from the outside in, shaped by noise and expectation. You are living from the inside out, guided by resonance. And that resonance is rewriting everything, even before the outer shifts fully manifest. For when your vibration changes, the future begins to rearrange itself to meet you. When your vibration shifts, life begins to echo it back to you in mysterious ways. Things you once called coincidences now arrive too precisely, too consistently, to be chance. The right person calls just when you needed guidance. A book falls into your hands that answers the question you could not articulate. An opportunity appears the moment you've created space for it. These are synchronicities, the quiet confirmations that your inner alignment is rippling outward. Carl Jung described synchronicity as meaningful coincidence, moments where the inner world and outer world mirror each other in perfect timing. To the logical mind, they seem random. To the awakened soul, they are evidence that the universe is listening. History is full of such stories. Archimedes, lost in thought, stepped into a bath and suddenly realized the principle of displacement that would change science forever. His famous cry of "Eureka!" was less about discovery than recognition of alignment. Albert Einstein often spoke of intuition as the guiding force of his breakthroughs, as if ideas arrived not from effort, but from resonance. Even in art, Vincent van Gogh once wrote that he felt guided by something larger, that his brush was being moved by more than his hand. Each was touched by synchronicity, by alignment between the invisible within and the visible without. In your own life, these moments may appear ordinary at first. A chance meeting, a delayed train that places you in the right place at the right time, an unexpected silence that reveals what words could not. But the more your vibration rises, the more these alignments become your rhythm. You begin to walk through life with the sense that unseen hands are arranging the path before you. This is not fantasy. It is resonance. Just as a magnet draws filings into perfect patterns, your inner frequency draws experiences into coherence. And when something is not for you, the misalignment is clear. You feel it instantly, and the door quietly closes. No longer do you chase what is not yours, you allow the current to guide you. At first, these synchronicities may feel overwhelming, as though the world is speaking in a code too vast to comprehend. But slowly, you learn to trust them. You stop needing to control every outcome, because you see that the right things are finding you. You no longer rush into frantic action, because you sense that alignment is more powerful than effort alone. Think of the great navigators who once set sail across oceans with only the stars as their guide. They trusted not in maps, but in alignment with the heavens. Your synchronicities are the same, stars scattered across your path, showing you that you are not lost but guided. And the beauty of it is this: alignment does not require force. It does not demand endless striving. It emerges from coherence, when what you carry within finally matches what you are meant to hold without. That is why synchronicities feel effortless. They arrive not because you begged for them, but because you became ready for them. Each sign, each opening, each meeting whispers the same truth. The universe is not withholding from you. It is responding to you. And now, finally, you are in tune. When all the letting go, all the pauses, all the refinements have done their work, you arrive at a realization both humbling and powerful. You were never being delayed. You were being prepared. What once felt like emptiness was space-making. What once felt like silence was tuning. What once felt like loss was initiation. This is how the universe prepares a soul for something greater, not with noise or spectacle, but with subtle chiseling, with sacred pauses, with invisible alignments that slowly bring you into resonance. Like a sculptor removing stone to reveal the form within, life has been shaping you, stripping away what is not essential until only the truest version of yourself remains. History reminds us that every great transformation follows this rhythm. Moses wandered the desert for 40 years before leading his people. The prophet Muhammad spent long nights in the cave of Hira before the first revelation descended. Pilgrims in every culture have walked miles in silence before arriving at holy ground. Always greatness is born not in haste, but in hidden preparation. So it is with you. The stillness you endured, the the detachment you accepted, the sensitivity you embraced, the scars you integrated, all of it was forging you into a vessel that could hold what is now approaching. And you begin to sense it, not as a clear picture, not as a defined plan, but as a vibration within, a knowing without words. The future that once felt far away now breathes within you. You no longer crave it from emptiness. You no longer chase it in desperation. You have become the space in which it can dwell. This readiness does not roar. It does not need to announce itself. It rests in silence, in presence, in alignment. Others may not see it yet, but they will feel it. Your calm will speak louder than ambition. Your clarity will move more deeply than noise. Your very presence will begin to summon what is yours. For when the universe entrusts something extraordinary, it does not place it in chaotic hands. It gives it to those who have learned to hold themselves. It gives it to those who can carry truth without breaking, who can receive without shrinking, who can walk with power without arrogance. And that is what you are becoming. Not merely someone waiting for greatness, but someone who embodies it. Not a seeker chasing light, but a vessel through which light can flow. You are not just being prepared for what is coming, you are becoming what is coming. And so, as the silence deepens, as the signs align, as the vibration steadies, you finally understand. You were never abandoned. You were never forgotten. You were being refined. And now you are ready. Ready not to grasp, but to receive. Ready not to perform, but to be. Ready not to hold on, but to hold open. The universe has already begun to respond. The great has already begun to arrive. And you, quiet, steady, whole, are already the space it needed.